Hi, I'm Kenneth Holmes, and today I'd like to talk about the brain. The brain can be split into three major sections, which in turn can be separated into deeper sections. The three sections are the cerebrum, which is made up of two hemispheres, the right and the left, and is responsible for the motion of the body, much of what we think of as our senses, as well as where learning and problem solving occurs. Then there's the cerebellum, which is responsible for balance and sustained motion, like walking. And the brainstem, which regulates involuntary actions, like our heartbeat or breathing. The cerebrum is made up of several sections, as stated before, the left and the right hemisphere, which have different areas that assist with different functions. The left hemisphere has areas that help with the formation of language, problem solving, learning, and reasoning, while the right hemisphere is more dedicated to spatial perception, also known as putting the space around us into perspective. Other than the hemispheres, there's another way to section off the cerebrum. There's the frontal lobe, the parietal lobe, the occipital lobe, and the temporal lobe, as well as the insula. The frontal lobe is located at the forefront of the brain. It is responsible for initiating and coordinating voluntary motion. There's also an area known as Broca's area that is responsible for the production of language in the form of speech. The frontal lobe also assists in planning and organizing, as well as self-monitoring and self-control. When we think of teenagers making poor decisions, it is because the frontal lobe is still developing, meaning they still can struggle with planning, organizing, and self-control. The parietal lobe helps process sensory information such as touch, temperature, pain, and pressure. It also assists in monitoring the position of one's limbs in reference to themselves. Without the parietal lobe, we would struggle to do basic things, like grabbing an object in front of us, because we wouldn't know where our limbs are without other points of references. Furthermore, the parietal lobe assists in processing the analyzation of objects both at rest or moving. The occipital lobe is responsible for most of our visual understanding. It processes colors that are seen from the eyes. It processes motion. As things are moving, it will help us put it into context. And just overall understanding the form and shape of the things we are looking at. The occipital lobe utilizes patterns. For example, it has a propensity for faces. Often, visual pareidolia that result in faces is because of the occipital lobe. The temporal lobe is the second largest lobe and is located below the frontal and parietal lobe. It is responsible for processing sound. It also assists in the formation of memories. Located under the surface of the brain, the insular cortex, or the insula, is responsible for many autonomic controls of the body. It assists in things like homeostasis, our visceral sensations, and regulating the immune system. Located under the cerebrum, the cerebellum is responsible for muscle movement. This helps coordinate the force at which we use our muscles, as well as the timing. It allows us not only to walk by coordinating the the movement and motion, as well as the timing, but also to learn how to walk. This is where muscle memory is formed. The last major section, the brainstem, is a stalk-like structure located under the cerebrum, leading inside the brain. The brainstem is made up of the diencephalon, the midbrain, the pons, and the medulla oblongata. Most of its responsibilities fall under involuntary action, such as breathing, your heart beating, maintaining your body temperature, your circadian rhythm or sleep cycle, swallowing, sneezing, coughing, or vomiting. The diencephalon is located within the brain as a structure made up of the epithalamus, the thalamus, the subthalamus, and the hypothalamus. It is responsible for homeostasis of the body, autonomic functions, motor functions, your endocrine functions, as well as processing stimuli such as hearing, vision, touch, smell, and taste. Things that we recognize as our senses. The midbrain is connected to the diencephalon. It contributes to further processing of visual and auditory stimuli. It assists in regulating body temperature and circadian rhythm, as well as motor control, mostly having to do with eye movement. The structure, the pons, is located between the midbrain and the medulla oblongata. The pons assists with regulating and maintaining the automation of the respiratory system. It also assists in rapid eye movement, or REM, while sleeping. The medulla oblongata is what connects the brainstem to the spinal cord. It regulates much of the sensory signals that are sent up through the spinal cord to the brain, and also regulates the automation of the cardiovascular and the respiratory system.